Hey gamers and PC builders! Picking the right CPU isn't just about buying the most expensive one. Today, we're breaking down exactly what you need to check before buying a CPU for gaming. Explained simply, so you know what really matters. Let's start with something basic, but absolutely critical: the socket. Your CPU has to physically fit your motherboard. AMD's latest Ryzen processors use the AM5 socket, while older chips stick to AM4. Intel's current lineup runs on LGA 1700, but their newest Core Ultra processors move to LGA 1851. If you ignore the socket, your CPU won't even lock into place, and your build stops before it starts. Always double-check your motherboard socket and make sure you select a CPU built for it. Next, the CPU core count. Cores and threads are the heart of how your CPU handles tasks. For most games today, 6 cores and 12 threads will get you smooth performance. But if you want to stream, edit, or future-proof your setup, stepping up to 8 or more cores gives you breathing room for whatever comes next. Decide how you'll use your PC. Then pick a CPU with enough cores for gaming now and for what you might do later. Next is the CPU clock speed. Clock speed sounds simple, but here's the truth. That huge turbo number on the box isn't the speed your CPU will run at all the time. The base clock is what you'll actually see when all cores are working at 100%. That's the steady speed your CPU can hold for hours during long gaming sessions or heavy tasks. The turbo clock, on the other hand, is a short boost. It kicks in only for a few seconds when 1 or 2 cores hit 100% and need extra power. After that, the CPU drops back down to avoid overheating or using too much power. In gaming, those turbo bursts are great for quick things like loading levels, but the base clock is what keeps performance smooth in the long run. So, when choosing CPU, don't just get excited by the turbo number. Make sure the base clock is strong enough for hours of stable gaming. Next is CPU cache. CPU cache is the fastest memory inside your computer, even faster than your system's main RAM. Think of it as the processor's private storage space, sitting right on the chip, so it doesn't have to wait for data to travel back and forth from the slower main memory. The bigger this cache is, especially the level 3 cache, the more data the CPU can keep close by and grab instantly when it needs it. That's why games that constantly stream textures, maps, and assets, like big open-world titles, see such a huge benefit from larger cache sizes. AMD's X3D processors are a great example, with extra L3 cache that delivers a noticeable boost in those kinds of games. So when you're picking a CPU, also pay attention to cache size, because it quietly helps your processor stay lightning fast. Next is CPU power limits. Let's talk about power, because this is where many people get confused. On Intel's specification page, you'll see 2 key numbers listed: processor base power PL1 and maximum turbo power PL2. PL1 is the base power limit, the amount of energy your CPU draws when it's running at its base clock speed for long, steady workloads. PL2, on the other hand, is the higher power limit the CPU taps into when it jumps up to its turbo speed. Think of it like this. When your CPU is cruising at its base clock, it's sipping power at the PL1 limit. But the second it pushes into turbo mode, those short bursts of high clock speed on 1 or 2 cores, it gulps extra power. And that's when PL2 comes into play. So, before you buy, make sure your power supply can handle not just the PL1 base power, but also the higher PL2 turbo power spikes, since that's when your CPU draws the most energy. Next is CPU max temperature. Every CPU has a built-in thermal ceiling called T-junction or TjMax, the maximum temperature the chip can safely reach before it starts protecting itself. For most Intel processors, that limit is around 100 degrees Celsius, while AMD's processors begin to throttle somewhere between 90 degrees Celsius and 95 degrees Celsius. Hitting these limits doesn't mean the CPU will burn out, but it does mean the chip will automatically lower its speed to stay safe. It's important to understand that a lower TjMax means the CPU will start throttling at a lower temperature, so it's less tolerant to heat and requires better cooling to maintain performance. On the other hand, a higher TjMax lets the CPU run hotter before throttling. making it more tolerant to temperature increases. So always check your CPU's TjMax, and if it's on the lower side, plan for stronger cooling so you can keep the chip running at its best. So there you have it, CPU socket compatibility, cores, clocks, cache, power limits, and maximum temperature. These are the things you should always check before buying your next gaming CPU. Take the time to run through this checklist and aim for the best processor you can get in your budget. One that powers your games smoothly today and stays reliable and future-proof for the upgrades and titles coming tomorrow. And since you watched all the way through, here's a pro tip. After considering these points, make sure you check your CPU and GPU bottleneck online. It's very important to keep these two parts balanced. An overpowered CPU with a weak GPU, or the other way around, can waste performance and money. Calculate the bottleneck using a few different websites to get the best idea of how well your parts will work together, and you'll have a clear picture of the perfect balance for your budget. If this guide helped you understand CPUs a little better, make sure to like, share, and drop your questions in the comments. Thanks for watching.